What up, Cucks? It's the hater once again, and you know what time it is. It's time for a video pin this piece, all right? I'm doing this video, what's the date? April 8th, I guess. It's technically April 9th because it's in the AM hours, you understand what I'm saying? I don't know when I'm going to release it. It might be tomorrow, it might be down the line. I'm going to put this in here just to kind of like archive it and wait for the time to release this video. It'll probably be tomorrow, let's be realistic. But as a result, I'm not going to do subscriber shoutouts because this is not like, in the chronology of the hater, if you will, motherfucks. By the way, for those that are keeping track, we're now in hater season 2, you know what I'm saying? Season 2 has started. But this video is actually quasi-serious. This video is about the death of wrestling, if you will. Now, before I continue, I want to preface it by saying this. When I say death, it's more like life support, right? Like, wrestling will always be around, and wrestling will come back. And it's only a matter of time until either Vince McMahon decides, you know what I'm saying, that like, all right, enough is enough, I can't listen to Triple H anymore and these retards, or another Saeed, or what is it, Shad Khan level billionaire or some big money motherfucker, or maybe a group of people that have money decide that they're going to invest in another group of people like the elite, except not the elite, but 4 people or 3 people or 2 people or 1 people or who knows, that are not complete morons, right? And then these people will create like a quasi-serious wrestling company, much like Jeff Jarrett did when he created TNA back in the Diz, you understand what I'm saying? And maybe TNA's the answer. Who the fuck knows, you know? That's why we're in this long ride. But until we figure that out, until either what I just said happens, or Vince McMahon decides that none of his children or progeny can be successors to his vision, let's be real, right? None of them can do it. Or maybe they can if they just start listening to him, or, me, you know what I'm saying? Until then, we have to come to terms with the fact that wrestling is dead. And now you're probably thinking to yourself, how did wrestling die? Who killed it? You know what I'm saying? Who is to blame? These are all very pertinent questions that will be addressed right now, motherfuckers. Right now. All right, so the first question we have to answer before we get this argument going and before we get the point across is who is responsible for wrestling dying? Now, there are 2 culprits. One of them is an ephemeral institution that I'm going to just label independent wrestling, okay? Independent wrestling is one of the things that is killing wrestling as a medium of storytelling. I've said before that I think wrestling is one of the best mediums for storytelling because when you tell a story through wrestling, there's a payoff, right? The story follows a very simple structure almost always, right? There's a first act, just like a play. The first act, the second act, and act 3. But the beauty of wrestling is that it plays out in front of you and that there is cartoonish violence, right? And because you can control the outcome, you can create scenarios like the hard-working, even though he was a liar, cheater, and thief, but the hard-working Mexican immigrant when he needed to be, he wasn't even an immigrant, he was born in El Paso, but you know what I'm saying. The hard-working Latino, right, who is being accosted unjustly by the rich Texas trader who now lives in New York, right? That's what a storyline is, right? You create that, right? This is a thing that we can all kind of relate to, even if we're not Latinos or rich Texans or whatever, or racists, or whatever the case may be. You can relate to it. You can be like, man, it would suck to be this guy who's being harassed by this much bigger guy from Texas who just patrols the border, you know what I mean? And then you have the little guy beat the big guy, or vice versa as it happened, and you create a storyline, and you continue the storylines, and you go from there. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the beauty of wrestling, because at the end of the day, there's a payoff, and like I always said, the other good thing about wrestling is that sometimes the bad guy, in this case JBL, wins, right? So that's the thing that attracted me to wrestling at first, is because back when I was a kid, certainly I wasn't watching like Law and Order, you know what I'm saying? But like TV shows weren't as good, right? And movies, Hollywood was amazing. They had like great action movies, but it was very formulaic, right? The good guy wins. Very few movies did the bad guy win, and even fewer of them was the bad guy even likable, you know what I mean? So in wrestling, the bad guy sometimes is likable, you know what I mean? Like he's cool, he's strong, he's tough, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you want the bad guy to beat the good guy, so maybe the next good guy, John Cena, can beat the bad guy, and everything is all well and good, right? That's the beauty of wrestling as a medium. Now, when independent wrestling started coming on board, it was all fun and games. It was all good, man. It was a good place for people to go when they did not have a contract with WWE or WCW. I remember one time I went to like an episode of Monday Night Raw. I was a kid. It was my birthday. And when I left, this guy outside was passing out brochures or flyers. And he was like, come watch independent wrestling, whatever, right? Gangrel's going to be there. And I'm like, oh shit, I hadn't seen Gangrel in a couple of months. I guess he now wrestles for this independent bullshit wrestling company, right? So I was a little happy. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. Gangrel's got a job. I didn't go, obviously, because I'm like, this is some low quality shit. But I didn't go. I was also a kid, you know what I'm saying? So then down the line, independent wrestling became more and more foolish, right? This then bled into other organizations a little bit, especially organizations like TNA and ROH and even WWE, because when they would bring these like indie wrestlers in, some of the foolishness of these wrestlers would then come in with them, right? But it was still manageable, right? Then I remember the year, but a tag team called Generation Me debuted in TNA. These were two young motherfucks. They were very athletic. They had something in there. They were clear Hardy Boy ripoffs, Generation Me. And they already had something of an indie following. They were also called the Young Bucks, right? And down the line, the Young Bucks went and quote unquote made a name for themselves in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You understand what I'm saying, right? Now, they didn't really do much there because they were just a tag team. New Japan doesn't really have any storylines or anything like that, right? But the long story short, down the line, wrestling became more and more absurd in the independents, right? So you had people, it started out with dumb shit like in Chikara, right? Chikara was a very contained and foolish wrestling company that had some decent wrestling sometimes, but it also had a stable called the Ant Colony, where it was like 6-7 dudes dressed like ants. Now, I thought that was kind of cool because it was like Fire Ant, Soldier Ant. I didn't really watch Chikara, but I kind of knew about it, right? And I saw this clip on YouTube where this one guy, right, in a match, pulls out a fake grenade, pulls the pin from the fake imaginary grenade, throws it. One of the ant guys jumps on top of it, and he covers the grenade, and he just blows himself up. And in slow motion, the ants are just like wailing their arms, right? They're selling the fake grenade. And here's the problem. Because it was Chikara, the crowd was a bunch of fat virgin retards. Now, these people don't understand comedy. They don't understand when it is or it is not appropriate to laugh. So they all laughed at this foolishness. Now, it's okay to laugh at that. I'm not saying, it is kind of funny when you see it the first time, right? It happens. What are you going to do, right? But it happens to Chikara. Then, down the line, the Young Bucks, they went, like I said, to New Japan. And in New Japan, they joined this very up-and-coming group called Bullet Club. Now, Bullet Club, like it or hate it, it's a wrestling phenomenon, right? Bullet Club entered into the wrestling mainstream, like people, everyone in the States and everyone that didn't watch New Japan kind of knew about Bullet Club. Now, Bullet Club started by some twink named Finn Balor, or as they called him back then, Prince Devitt, right? Prince Devitt, on the other, on one side of the coin, he's a little twinky looking guy, but on the other side of the coin, he actually was not a bad wrestler in New Japan, and he had an attitude, right? And what he did, I don't know if he was the creative force behind it, but him and Bad Luck Fale, these two guys, they understood the difference in psychology between American, or I should say North American wrestling, or whatever, traditional mainstream wrestling, and New Japan's version of wrestling, right? Or Japanese wrestling in general. Now, Japanese wrestling has different sub-niches, right? So there's like the Japanese deathmatch like audience, there's like the stupid-ass comedy audience, and then there's the New Japan, which is like, we take it seriously audience, right? Like, oh, strong style, you know what I mean? So the Young Bucks joined this group, and then Prince Devitt was signed by WWE, and he went out to NXT to become Finn Balor, right? And then they needed someone to replace Fergal, because in New Japan he was going to get a push because he was charismatic enough, and because Bullet Club became this group. The whole point of Bullet Club, a lot of people don't know this, but the point of Bullet Club was they're all foreigners, right? Like Prince Devitt is from Ireland and Bad Luck Fale is from Tonga, right? These are not people that play by the rules of Japan. That was the entire premise, right? Like a lot of things in Japan are not kosher, right? You can't attack people with chairs. You don't cheat during matches. It's very pure, right? But these guys would do that, right? And that's why they got over really quick, because the fans of Japan are like, oh, this is cool. Now we're finally becoming like WWE. It's not some boring ass guy with blonde hair fighting another boring ass guy with long blonde hair, you know? So, but timing was such that Prince Devitt was signed by WWE and he went over there. Now, in the meantime, AJ Styles left TNA, and he went to New Japan, and he pretty much took over the Finn Balor spot, where he became the leader of Bullet Club and their one guy, like their main wrestler, right? The guy that would win the title, and he won the title, right? And everything was perfect up until this point. Once the Young Bucks joined, which I think was before this, but once the Young Bucks joined and he started kind of pushing the narrative a bit towards their viewpoint of the Bullet Club, which in my opinion is one of the most unethical things ever done in wrestling, right? They introduced Kenny Omega as their mid-card, like junior heavyweight jabron, right? And he came in there, and then once AJ Styles left a few years later for the E, right? Kenny Omega was the one that was chosen to take AJ Styles' spot. Now, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks had become good friends, or perhaps they were good friends. Who the fuck cares? And then Bullet Club started being littered with a bunch of jobber motherfucks that did not understand, nor did they embody the original spirit of Bullet Club. I'm talking about Hangman Page and, of course, our good friend Cucky Rhodes, right? Now, these 5 motherfuckers, by the way, I can't believe that I'm just ranting this without even writing it down, dude. I guess this is how important it is to me. So now these 5 people, right, through some, bouncing around and look like factions within the faction, they became the elite. Specifically, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks became the elite, and they also wrestled in ROH. So these people wrestled and traveled together for quite some time, right? As a result, the original premise of Bullet Club went from like, yo, we're just these like anti-Japanese wrestling foreigners. It just became like, we're just a group, right? We're just a group, and then slowly but surely became more a group of goofs, right? We are a group of goofs. So all of a sudden now, the Young Bucks, in my opinion, were at the forefront of this. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega was the leader, but it was him and the Young Bucks that were pushing the narrative. The Young Bucks started doing a bunch of dumb shit, like they had their own t-shirts or whatever, right? And they made a t-shirt that said, "Too sweet." So boom, WWE lawyers call their ass and they say, "Cease and desist, we own the trademark to that son bitch." And all of a sudden, people are like, I can't believe WWE did this. Why wouldn't they, motherfucks? If I make a shirt that says McDonald's, or if I make a shirt that says Nike on it, Nike's going to be like, yo, man, you can't be selling that shirt. I want my cut. I'm Nike, bitch, right? So they did this, and then almost a week later, the Young Bucks debuted their new finishing move that was around for a couple of weeks. It was a combination, I think it was a crossface sharpshooter, and it was called the cease and desist, right? So these people, tongue-in-cheek, right, they kind of went after WWE, basically saying like, yo, this is not a real sport. Like, this is the subtext. It's like, it's not real. We know it's not real, so we're going to just do dumb shit, right? And this was basically manifested through their flagrant use of the Sweet Chin Music Super Kick, which went from a high-level finisher to like a normal move that you spam in the match. Now, the first few times it was all well and good, because it's like, oh shit, it's a lot of super kicks. People are kicking out. It's becoming a good match, right? But then when you spam this at match after match after match, the joke is on you, right? People start laughing at the fact that you're doing too many super kicks, which was their intention all along. That's the entire Young Bucks gimmick is like, oh, it's just not real. We break kayfabe, that's what we do, right? Now, on the other side of the coin in the indies, things got more and more absurd. It got to the point where I saw this match where this guy did what they called a force choke slam. In other words, the guy standing on one side of the ring, on one corner, the other guy's near the other corner. Guy from corner 1 starts running towards guy from corner 2. Guy in corner 2, as soon as the first guy takes 2 or 3 steps, does like a choke slam hand motion, and like 10 feet away, the other guy sells it as if he's being grabbed by the throat. Then in tandem, one guy does the choke slam to nobody, and the other guy jumps as if he's being choke slammed, right? So this guy completed a choke slam using the power of the force. Later on, things became more and more ridiculous. Like at a certain point, this guy started doing a move. I think it was Osiris or something in Chikara. His move was he would wave his hands like a snake, and the other guy would get hypnotized. So here we are now. People are getting hypnotized. People are taking forced choke slams and fake grenades. In comes Joey Ryan, motherfucks. Joey Ryan, a guy that has failed several times to make it in any company that he's been given a chance in, right? Starting from that WSX, the music one, where he had like a gimmick where he was kind of gay, right? Him and his partner were these two disco guys that were kind of gay and like lecherous. Then he went to TNA where he pretty much failed the first time around. Then he almost retired. Then he made a tag team with Candice LeRae, which ruined everything again. And then he started doing dick flips, motherfucks. For those of you that are lucky enough to not know what this is, I'm about to ruin your lives. It's basically when some guy, for some reason, grabs Joey Ryan by the cock. Or Joey Ryan grabs their hand and puts it on his cock. Then Joey Ryan flexes, right? He flexes while the guy's grabbing his cock, and the guy does a flip, right? This gets a huge pop from the neckbeard demographic. Meanwhile, other wrestlers from New Japan like Jushin Thunder Liger go to other promotions and they do this thing that I saw online where there's like 6-7 wrestlers and they each literally, I mean not literally, but they pretend to stick a thumb up each other's ass. And they create a human centipede of thumbs up the ass. And ending with Jushin Thunder Liger using his ass muscles, his sphincter, to flip the entire line. This is where we're at now, right? Meanwhile, again, in New Japan and slightly in ROH, there's all this foolishness going on, right? Basically, wrestling isn't real, right? Then in TNA, Matt Hardy debuts a dark, evil character with a weird voice, and he goes after his brother, Jeff Hardy, right? Quickly, Matt Hardy realizes that this is stupid, because we've seen this a million times, so he switches the gimmick to become Broken Matt Hardy, right? Where he becomes exaggerated, he's losing his mind, it becomes a comedy gimmick, and he's funny, so it gets over, right? They turn face. Then we get the Ultimate Deletion. Now, a lot of people, including myself, enjoyed the Ultimate Deletion because it was the first of its kind, and it was legit novel, and it was something that, like, it involved Matt and Jeff Hardy, a big rivalry, right? A big deal, but not a main event type thing, and not on a pay-per-view, it was on a normal show. So we have this, it goes over well. This leads to the Hardy Boys being invited back to WWE. Pause. In the meantime, Triple H starts signing every jobber there ever was. Like, if you look, like I was looking at the PWI list on Wikipedia, and in one random year, like number 3 was Mystico. According to the list, the 3rd best wrestler in the world was Sin Cara, right? So Triple H probably looked at this list and he was like, who is this guy? I'm going to sign him. So he signs Sin Cara. Turns out Sin Cara sucks. So Sin Cara gets fired, right? Triple H continues this habit and starts signing people left, right, left, right, left, right. And a lot of these people turn out to be complete failures. I'm talking about Hideo Itami, Bobby Roode, who else? Samoa Joe, let's be real, he's a failure. Finn Balor is back on NXT. Everyone that's still in NXT, Ty Dillinger gets signed back. A bunch of people get signed up that are not good enough, let's be honest, right? And the WWE process is that we give all these people a chance, right? So you sign Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, you give him a chance. Now, Luke Harper definitely was good enough to be a lower mid-carder. Problem is, he thought he was like the next Undertaker, and he had delusions of grandeur about what his next gimmick was going to be. Vince McMahon said, speaking a Southern accent, he said, I'm from Rochester. If I were Vince, I would say, then you're fired. You can't do the job I'm asking you to do. Right? That's how it works. You hire an actor for a movie, and you say, you play the role this way. I can't play it. Like, I can't do it. You hire Tom Hanks, and then you're like, you're going to play the role of a retarded guy. And he's like, well, I'm not retarded. Okay, great. I'm going to go get Sean Penn, who can play the role of a retarded guy. Get bounce. Hit it. Hit the bricks, jabron. Right? That's the idea, right? When I heard Luke Harper say, oh, I'm from Rochester, I can't do a Southern accent, I understood then that the fact that I even liked this guy at one point was a mistake. Because this guy, that line, oh, I'm from Rochester, speaks of entitlement, right? This guy comes to a multi-billion-dollar company and thinks, I'm going to do it how I want to do it. No, kid. That's not how it works. You're going to do it like you're told to do it. And if you don't, bounce. Go to AEW. Get the hell out of here. Go to the jobber company, right? So now, as WWE started culling the herd, picking the good ones like Seth Rollins and the good ones like Drew McIntyre, bringing him back, things like that, getting the good ones, bringing back Brock Lesnar, they got rid of the bad ones one by one, right? These people started dropping like flies. We're talking about the Vance Archers. We're talking about Sawyer Fulton, who actually I think is doing very well in TNA from what I see online, you know what I mean? But these people, they start dropping them. They're like, yo, we don't need you, man. We got like 30 people waiting, you know what I mean? So bounce, hit it, you know? Like, he did with Tommy, like, oh, you failed, get the fuck out, you know, we don't need you anymore, go back to New Japan, become a champion there, become a multiple-time champion there. But the point is, As wrestling stood, right, it was dying slowly and slowly from the molestations, if you will, that other wrestlers were doing to the medium of wrestling. I don't want to call it sport, in other companies, right? Even before this, Kenny Omega was having matches with blow-up dolls and dressing like Princess Jasmine. Now here's the problem. In one of my old jobs, I had a boss. He was a great boss. And this company was a healthcare company. I did compliance for them, amongst other things, and marketing. But the boss, right, he was a businessman. That's what he was. He was a businessman. He was a smart guy. But what he also was an aspiring artist. Like, not an aspiring artist, but you could tell he was one of those, like, he always wanted to be an artist. And he was pretty good. He could sketch on his little tablet. You know, he was good, right? So when I was doing marketing for this company, I would write blogs for them, and my boss would always draw a cartoon for the blog. And the excitement that he got for the cartoon justified me doing the blogs. And I told him, I'm like, look, this is not this company, because I was pretty like invested in the company doing well. So I'm like, this company is not here for you to like live out your dream of drawing, you know? And me and my boss were cool. We had a good rapport. You know, it was a small company. So he was like, you know what, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like, I get it. You like to draw, but like, we can't base your, it got to the point where he's like, oh, let's base the blogs around this drawing that I made. You know, I'm just like, yeah, that's not how it works, you know? So this is kind of the same thing that's happening in wrestling, right? People like fucking Luke Harper, they think that like this is their moment to like to show their creativity. It's like, oh, I had this idea. That's fine, dude. This is a business. If you want to be creative, start a YouTube channel like your boy. You know what I mean? And then you can say whatever the fuck you want, and Vince McMahon won't tell you to use a Southern accent. You know what I'm saying? Guess what Vince McMahon tells me? Nothing, motherfucks. I do it like I want to do it. So that's the thing. A lot of these wrestlers think that like once they make it in wrestling, this is their opportunity for them to like release their artistic like creativity. And sometimes that's good if you are a creative person. For example, Velveteen Dream, right? I don't know. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but I have a feeling that he's the one who came up with that gimmick. He ran it by whoever he has to run it by, and they were like, this is a good gimmick. You play it well, kid. Keep doing it, right? Creativity is rewarded when it is good. But this entitlement of like, well, I think I should do this. Well, I think you shouldn't, because I'm the one who started a multi-billion-dollar company, and you're just a replaceable jabron. You know, I can just take you out, put Eric Rowan in your place, and no one will even notice, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? And I'm not trying to shit on Luke Harper. You know, I actually like Luke Harper. I hope he does well in AEW. I hope he comes back to WWE one day, you know? But the facts are what they are. A lot of these wrestlers think that they're like, oh, I had these ideas, Vince didn't like them, therefore Vince is out of touch. What about the possibility that you're out of touch? That nobody wants to see, like, Luke Harper being a collector. I don't want to see that. I'd rather see him in a Southern accent. I don't want to see him collecting trophies from people he beats. That's weird. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Back to the topic at hand, although it all goes in tandem, right? The facts are what they were. Like, little by little, wrestling started dying, right? And there came a point, I can't pinpoint it and no one can, but there came a point where the switch flipped, right? Where instead of this being a novelty, right, this entered the mainstream. Like the Matt Hardys, all these people re-entered the mainstream or entered the mainstream for the first time. The Young Bucks entered the mainstream, and I gotta give them props, through their own hard work. They put themselves over, they created a brand, and then eventually they started AEW. Now, before they did that, they did the All In, whatever the fuck it's called. Like that, yeah, All In, right? And in there, they had a match. It was, I think, Adam Page versus Joey Janela. And then during that, Joey Ryan came out, and like 6 penises, who were supposed to be like Undertaker's druids, came and took away Adam Page. Now, this was ridiculous. You know, this was just foolish. This should have been the end of that, right there. But because the neckbeards have now outnumbered the normal people, I'll tell you this. When I went, last time I went to a Raw or to a WrestleMania was when I was in law school, and me and my friend drove there. But when we entered the, whatever the fuck it's called, the field of the Jets play, I think, whatever, right? When we entered there, we saw all the fans. And this was like the WrestleMania when John Cena wrestled The Rock for the second time. So the fans were still like a little bit more normal, you know? But there were a few weird ones. There was this one guy sitting near us. He was this like relatively muscular guy, and he had like he had a WWE title, and he was dressed like The Rock. But here's where it gets weird. He had tattoos that were like The Rock's tattoos, and he got them for that reason. You know, and I was like, that's fucking strange, but whatever, you know, I'm gonna assume this guy's an outlier. Now compare that to in like 1999 when I went to Raw when I was a kid. Everyone there was just rowdy college students, you know, cool people. people that aren't weird, you know? But now the weirdos have outnumbered everyone. And this is important because these weirdos are the ones that keep cheering on this kind of nonsense, right? And this kind of nonsense becomes more and more and more and more mainstream. Now the Young Bucks are considered one of the best tag teams in the world. Now the Young Bucks are not bad wrestlers. That would be a lie, right? They can do a lot of moves. You know, they're fluid. They seldom botch. They do high-risk things. But I don't like their wrestling style, but that's a personal preference. I can understand that. But the problem with them is that they present themselves as if they're these like finger on the pulse, like they understand the next generation of wrestling fans. No, motherfuckers. You understand the wrestling fans that watch your type of shit. There are untapped wrestling fans out there that, like, if I took a random friend of mine who's like in his 20s, right? He's never watched wrestling, doesn't know anything about it, and I show him like the Attitude Era, and I show him, if I show him the Invasion angle, he will be interested inherently because it is inherently interesting. If I show him Bray Wyatt, he'll be like, why is this fat guy here? What happened to the bald guy who drinks beer? I liked him more. You know what I mean? That's what he would say. So there you have it, right? The more and more this becomes mainstream, the more entitled people become. You know, people come from other companies and they're like, well, in that company, I was hot shit and I was having matches with a blow-up doll. Can I do that here? And then Vince McMahon's like, no, you can't do that here. This is a Chikara, right? And this kind of bleeds in and bleeds in and bleeds in until we have a guy named Husky Harris who joins NXT Season 2. He does not stand out at all, even though he has a distinct look and relatively high athleticism, especially for his size. Husky Harris leaves. They ship him back to developmental, where he develops the Bray Wyatt character. A lot of people have high praise for the Bray Wyatt character. It's not a bad character as an idea. He comes in, gets a push, beats Daniel Bryan in a very good match at Royal Rumble, right? A very, very good match. One of the best matches in the last 10 years, easily, right? Then he goes to WrestleMania where he inevitably loses to the champ. You understand what I'm saying? Now, was that a good decision? Probably not, but who cares? It happened, right? Then Bray Wyatt starts and cries and bitches and moans and cries some more and bitches and moans like a pussy. Then he leaves his wife and marries JoJo after like abandoning his family. This guy, I mean, I don't want to judge the human being, I guess, but he does not seem like a good dude, in my opinion. But more importantly, I can judge the guy who's playing the character in the context of him playing the character. And it seemed to me that he kept bitching a lot from what I heard from people. Now, I don't know personally, of course, right? Then down the line, you know what I mean? Bray Wyatt gets an opportunity to become relevant once again. And who does he get the opportunity with? That's right, motherfucks. Matt Hardy, who becomes Woken Matt Hardy. And in this circle jerk, they try to imitate and recapture the magic that they had at the Ultimate Deletion in TNA. And this becomes goofier than ever because at least when it's Matt and Jeff Hardy and their creativity, right? It's the two of them. So it's like, all right, these brothers, like they're on the same page, right? They have this idea of like how this is going to be done. You know, they had creative control over it. So if you're going to do it like that. But now they add more cartoony, goofy shit. And why do they add this cartoony, goofy shit? Because of the fan demand. The biggest mistake that Vince McMahon and WWE has made in the last 15, 20 years is they started listening to the fans. The fans, for the most part, are morons. And they listen to the fans. Fans are like, we want this. And they're like, here it is. You know, eventually, like they piss and moan and here it is. You know? Here it is. Here's Bray Wyatt versus Matt Hardy. That happened. It was goofy. It was Scooby-Doo shit. You know, people like going behind one tree, appearing, you know, on the other side of the other tree. That kind of shit, you know, going into one door, appearing out of another door that's not connected to the door they went into. That kind of stuff, right? But luckily, that was kind of almost like a prelude to the tag team, to the shitty tag team of Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. Long story short, Bray Wyatt then gets injured and leaves. Now, people are like, oh, when's Bray Wyatt coming back? Everyone except for me, I'm thinking to myself, how many more chances does this fat bastard need for people to understand that this guy is not good? Now, I will give credit where credit is due. In the ring, I think Bray Wyatt is a fantastic wrestler. He can do power moves. He's quick. He's charismatic in his own way. He's not a total zero. But as far as his creativity goes, it's not there, motherfuckers. Someone needs to say it. I'm tired of these people being like, oh, Bray Wyatt's so great. He's so underrated. He's not underrated. He had a career for 5 years where he would just come out and say nothing. He would just be like, oh, Sister Abigail, they found us. And anyone but you, Roman. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you saying? Oh, I'm going to have tea with like Roman's daughter. Like a bunch of stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? Then he fails completely with Matt Hardy because it just wasn't a good pairing. Then these vignettes start happening, and we see this children's character, and I'm like, dude, this does not make a good children's character. This guy's got like a neck tattoo. Kids don't like that kind of stuff, and he's weird, right? And that's kind of the idea. He's supposed to be this weird children's cartoon guy, right? Then the Fiend appears. As soon as the Fiend appeared, I'm like, this has failure written all over it. If you were to present Bray Wyatt as a children's cartoon character who's like subtly creepy, he just has matches, he doesn't cheat, he's he presents himself as a face, but in fact he's like kind of a creep, right? Kind of like Dexter Loomis, who is awesome, he's being presented now in NXT. This is like a creep, right? No, they bring the supernatural, the Fiend is here. Why would anyone be scared of the Fiend? You know what I'm saying? Everyone beat the shit out of Bray Wyatt, but the Fiend is scarier, Then he does these Firefly Funhouse promos, which everyone liked, again, except for me. Because I'm like, this is stupid. It's just him making fun of wrestling. He's like, I used to be fat and no one liked me. Yeah, that's how it works, motherfucker. It's an aesthetic business. You can't be a fat guy named Husky Harris and expect to be champion. Especially having proven nothing. You've proven nothing. So he's like, I was Husky Harris, no one liked me. And then he has the Vince McMahon puppet, and he's like, oh, yeah, you suck, Husky Harris, lose some weight. And then he's like, the Fiend is coming, right? The Fiend comes, he's underwhelming. He's the same thing as Bray Wyatt, except he has shittier matches, and he has a new finisher at least, right? Then the Fiend gets buried by a real wrestler, Goldberg, right? But not even that can't save anything, because the logical conclusion to wrestling dying was this year's WrestleMania, right? The WrestleMania was supposed to be, like, if you remember the Attitude Era, every Monday night on Raw, they would tease something like Triple H, you and Austin will be in the same ring at the same time for a contract signing. Or it will be like Triple H and Funaki versus like Stone Cold and, I don't know, Scotty 2 Hotty, right? And they would never get their hands on each other because you build that up for the pay-per-view, right? And in the pay-per-view, they have a 30-minute, like 3 stages of hell match, one of the best matches ever, right? And you're like, wow, that was worth it. That was worth the $29.99 I asked my mom to pay. You know what I'm saying? That was worth it. So, and you enjoy yourself. Now, that's not a thing anymore. Now, people wrestle each other all the time, like Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins wrestle each other every week on Raw to some capacity. So the WrestleMania match feels underwhelming. You know what I mean? That's why these big returns and guest appearances feel big. That's why people want to see Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, because you don't see them every week. That's the whole premise of it. But nonetheless, they keep having these same ass matches all the time, right? Slowly, wrestling is dying as a result. Slowly. The format has changed, motherfuckers. Now you have these stupid-ass matches at pay-per-views, and because you've had the normal matches on Monday Night Raw for 4 weeks in a row, now you have to ask yourself, how can I one-up this? I'm going to do some dumb shit, And then WrestleMania, which was supposed to be a night where you expect good matches. Remember when WrestleMania was like 9 matches, but they were all, except for the women's match and like maybe another 1 or 2, they were all like really, really good matches. Like fucking Big Show versus Undertaker was a good match. Remember that kind of shit? Jericho versus Christian, fucking Jeff versus Matt Hardy. Good matches, because it's WrestleMania. Nowadays, people are satisfied with Drew McIntyre doing 4 dropkicks and pinning Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? This is not satisfactory to me. This is something that shouldn't happen at all. Now, should Drew McIntyre win? I have no problem with that. As a matter of fact, like on last Raw, I didn't include it in my video because I hadn't watched it yet, but Big Show came out and challenged Drew McIntyre. That was a better match than the one with Lesnar, because at least there was a match. I don't know why they didn't just include it into WrestleMania. That would have been much better, in my opinion, right? But they didn't. That's an artistic choice, if you will, right? But now, on the other side of the coin, AEW emerges as a company. And AEW's entire gimmick is, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, right? This is just a goofball company who pretends that wins and losses matter. Today on AEW, Jericho said, he was like, wins and losses matter here. And then he's like, so Hikaru Shida, who's won like 1 million matches in a row, she is due a title shot. Well, either they matter and she gets one, or they don't and she's due a title shot, right? So there you have it, cucks. That's kind of like the last phase of wrestling dying. Now it's gotten to the point where Vince McMahon and WWE has caved. They have caved to cater to the internet fan, which is a minority of fans, motherfuckers. Most people will turn that shit off. You know what I'm saying? They see something like Bray Wyatt versus Cena, they're like, this is stupid as fuck. This is basically John Cena making fun of John Cena, making fun of Bray Wyatt, and making fun of wrestling, right? Which is fucked up. Because wrestling is how this jobber, now I'm starting to hate John Cena, motherfucker. I'm turning on my own. But this is how John Cena became a mainstream star. You can just piss on it like that. There's people like me that like John Cena that are upset at seeing this. I don't want to see this garbage, you know what I'm saying? And now John Cena might never come back. I mean, he's going to come back, but it might take a long time. And how's he going to come back? Oh, I'm back, Jack. No, motherfuckers, it doesn't work like that. So, in summation, wrestling has died this weekend, but it's been dying for a while, right? With things like the Young Bucks ruining the in-ring element and Goldust doing the Canadian Destroyer like it's nothing. Tessa Blanchard, I saw a clip of TNA Impact today. It was Tessa Blanchard and Eddie Edwards, which is the dumbest name ever in wrestling, Eddie Edwards. What's next? John Johnson? Anyways, versus this tag team called The North, which I hadn't seen before, but I like these guys. These guys were doing good moves. They were awesome. They're like the Revival, but they actually are like good wrestlers, you know? The Revival are just a bunch of fat, short jobbers. So, like in this match, one of the guys, he's wearing like wrestling headgear, and he does this like forearm shot to Tessa Blanchard. And she just comes back and hits him with another one. And I'm like, in real life, if this guy decided to hit her once, she'd be in the hospital. It'd be a wrap. Because this guy was a bigger dude, like substantially bigger than Eddie Edwards and everybody else. He wasn't huge, but he was big enough to destroy Tessa Blanchard, right? Tessa Blanchard is the world champion, man. They present her as a complete equal. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life, right? So this is one way wrestling died. The other way it died is this kind of cinematic bullshit, right? Teleportation, magic, dick flips, right? So on the psychological side, it's died, and on the in-ring side, it's died, right? What the fuck is happening, you know? Now, with all that being said, motherfucks, what's going to happen? Who the fuck knows? You know what I'm saying? But I say this, I will reiterate this point. If there's anything to take away from this video, which was more like a history lesson with some comedy in there, the thing to take away from this video is this. The biggest mistake that WWE and other entities like WWE, including video games, movies, anything like that, the biggest mistake they can do and they can make is they can listen to the fans. No, motherfucks. The fans don't know what's good for them. They don't know what they want. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy, right? Tomorrow, Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out. I'm going to buy that shit, and I'm going to play that shit all weekend, motherfucks. Now, do I go and tell those Japanese motherfucks how to make the game? No. Do I have ideas that I think are better? Yes. Am I arrogant enough to think that this will be better for everyone else? No, motherfuckers. So I will buy the game for $59.99 and I will play it quietly like I'm supposed to. Like a good consumer, you understand what I'm saying? And if you don't like it, don't buy it. But the problem of listening to the fans is that when you listen to the fans, you have WrestleMania and you have something like Bray Wyatt versus John Cena, which will alienate more fans than it satisfies. Guaranteed, motherfuckers. Guaranteed. Right? When WWE didn't listen to the fans because the fans didn't really have a voice because the internet wasn't a thing, and even when it became a thing, the number of people that cared about wrestling on the internet was very, very small. They put out amazing things because they trusted their instincts, right? A lot of things they did, the fans didn't like, but comparatively, it was still better than what we're seeing today. People get mad at the Katie Vick angle. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm not a fan of the Katie Vick angle. I always thought people pretended it was worse than it was. But compare that shit to what's happening today, motherfucks. Compare that shit to the Nightmare Collective. What would you rather see? Katie Vick or the Nightmare Collective? What would you rather see, motherfucks? What would you rather see? You know what I mean? That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. Oh, Judy Bagwell on a pole match. That's fucking hilarious. You know, for the new fans that don't understand wrestling comedy and, you know, they think that comedy is a guy flipping guys with a dick, Judy Bagwell on a pole match doesn't seem funny. But if you remember the storyline, Chris Kanyon was like a loose cannon type retard who would just Diamond Canyon cutter people randomly, right? And he was after Buff Bagwell's mom. That's hilarious. He would just give her cutters randomly, right? So in order for Buff Bagwell to win his mother, like, her freedom, I guess, he had to win the Judy Bagwell on a pole match. And the entire premise of this was that it was so absurd that only someone as insane at the time as Chris Kanyon could conceive it. Now, I'm not defending it, but it was much better than what we're seeing nowadays, which is dumb shit. And that's the problem. When you listen to the fans, you pander to the lowest common denominator because it takes a special level of stupidity mixed with arrogance to think that you know better than everybody else. Now, I sit here on my dumb little videos and I tell you guys how I would improve things and how I would book it, right? And I also think that I'm right. I think that my ideas are better than the ideas of Cucky Rhodes, right? But I'm not arrogant enough to suppose that my ideas are the ones that should actually be implemented, right? If someone were to hire me and they say, oh, I like your ideas. If someone like, let's say, Jim Cornette or Vince McMahon or Triple H or even Cucky Rhodes, if they saw what I was writing or saying, they're like, hey, hater, we like you. We'd like to hire you. I'm like, oh, I'm validated. Now I can actually start coming up with ideas that are well thought out, right? But instead of doing that, people, like, it seems like Triple H just goes on online forums and they're like, push Cedric Alexander. They're like, oh, we're going to push Cedric Alexander. And then Vince McMahon's like, oh, we pushed the guy for 3 weeks. No one cares. He hasn't sold one shirt. You know what I'm saying? Back of the line it is for you, Cedric. Get out of here, jobber. That's the problem. When you listen to the fans, you run the risk of ruining what you have, right? If like, I was on a video. I saw a video this guy made about the upcoming Spider-Man game for PS5. And the amount of complaints, people were like, the web swinging wasn't good enough. I would make it like this. And I, the hater, wrote on that comment, I said, look, motherfucks, the web swinging in Spider-Man for PS4 was awesome. Anyone that says otherwise is a liar. They're lying to themselves. Now, could it be improved? Yes, everything can be improved, motherfuckers. But it was very, very good. But the amount of dissatisfaction in the comments would lead you to believe that it was an utter failure. One of the best superhero game of all time. People were like, oh, it's a failure. It's not a failure, motherfuckers. It was awesome. And this goes to show that this generation, our current generation, I include myself too, as a millennial, right? This generation thinks they know more than they do. And the fact is, you don't know dick, right? Cody Rhodes doesn't know shit. Tony Khan is a mark. So all these people be like saying like, oh, Vince McMahon ruins characters Triple H comes up with and Tony Khan rehabilitates them, then you tell me, motherfucks, you tell me how well Ty Dillinger has rehabilitated. Tony Khan is killing wrestling one step at a time just due to his ignorance and his arrogance. This is a typical, from what I understand, a typical rich kid who now has daddy's money and now he's also a fan. So he's like, I can run this. He's Dixie Carter. He is literally Dixie Carter, who everyone hated. But Tony Khan, oh no, Tony Khan is smart. He's a big fan. No, he's not, motherfuckers. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That's why he lets these jobbers run the company for him. And that's why the company is doomed. You will see, motherfuckers. It's only a matter of time before AEW is doing these like weird deals, like buy one shirt, get 30 shirts for $2, like total. You know what I'm saying? You just watch. It's gonna take some time because now they're still nascent, just like TNA. TNA was doing phenomenally well, like when they first started. It kept doing better and better and better. It was doing better than AEW was. They were pulling more than 1 million people like it was nothing, you know. So that's what I'm saying, right? This company will fail, and WWE for the first time, I'm starting to think that they have an actual chance of going out of business. Now, it's going to take a long time. They're probably going to sell before that happens. And hopefully the people that buy it fix that shit. But it's not going the right direction. Because Vince McMahon, for some reason, he needs to tighten that leash on people like Triple H who don't understand wrestling anymore. Which is weird. Because Triple H was around wrestling and he was a big deal in wrestling when wrestling was huge. But Triple H has fallen victim to the mentality that you must cater to the fans. No, motherfuckers, you don't cater to the fans. Do you think TNA fans wanted to pay to watch TNA every week? No, they didn't. And I didn't pay. But eventually, enough people paid, they read the audience correctly, and they were able to move and get a TV deal. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes, like, I don't want to pay $80 for WrestleMania, and for a long time, I didn't. I couldn't convince my mom to buy WrestleMania for $60. Mom's like, why? She's like, you're going to find out what happens tomorrow anyways, who cares? And I'm like, that's actually not a bad argument. But eventually, I was able to convince her. And then eventually, I was able to buy it myself. You understand what I'm saying? So there you go. You know, that's the idea, right? You have to play the long game. Just like Triple H says, I'm playing the long game with NXT and AEW, which I firmly believe. You have to play the long game with wrestling as well. You cannot go for these cheap, like, momentary satisfaction. Let's cater to the neckbeards. And it's not good for the company, because once in a while they cater to the neckbeards, and once in a while they cater to the old school fans, right? Like I said earlier in my other video, when New Age Outlaws beat Goldust and Stardust, that caters to me. You know, when Kane and Big Show eliminate Dolph Ziggler from the Royal Rumble, that caters to me. But, motherfucks, when Bray Wyatt pretty much rewrites history in that segment and beats Cena and eliminates him completely, right? That caters to someone else. And I don't like it. And now the problem is this. Who do you cater to? The answer is simple. You cater to the largest demographic. And in my opinion, and through common sense and through numbers, the demographic that they're currently catering to is the small demographic, motherfuckers. And the more they push the envelope, because it's a spectrum. There are people right now, the 2 million people a week that Raw is drawing, there are people on the cusp of that 2 million that are like, yo, man, I am like one dumb shit away from turning this shit off. And some of them will turn it off, right? And maybe some new ones will come. But the ratings will continue to go down as long as WWE listens to the fickle and forgetful WWE fans. Look at UFC. UFC does not listen to the fans at all. Dana White's like, we're gonna do this. Fans are like, we want to see this. Dana White's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do this. I'm the one who makes decisions. I'm the daddy around here. You understand what I'm saying? I'm the one who says this is what's gonna happen. It's my company to run. It's not yours, fan. The fans are like, I want to see Conor McGregor versus Brock Lesnar. No, motherfuckers, that's not how it works. Different weight classes. He's like, I'm gonna build Conor McGregor to be legit and have him fight Khabib. Who, I mean, let's be real. Nobody gave a fuck about Khabib until he fought Conor McGregor, right? And now they want to present him as a star, and he's not a star. I really hope that when he comes back, Tony Ferguson whoops his ass. But that's neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make is that you need a guy with a straight head. That's what UFC is doing well, because Dana White's like, all right, you fans said this. Like, the amount of times Dana White gets into fights with journalists, he's like, no, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm not going to listen to you, Ariel Helwani, right? So he just does it how he wants to do it. And sometimes that dissatisfies me personally. I wanted to see Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman, and they pushed that back a million times. And it pissed me off. I was like, man, I want to see this fight. But then it happened eventually, and it's going to happen again, and it's going to be even better the second time. You understand what I'm saying? You have to control the fans. The fans will respond to good things. They're not going to respond to things that they want, right? Like Final Fantasy VII Remake. I like Final Fantasy IX. People like Final Fantasy VII. If this remake is not amazing, which it looks like it's going to be, if it's not amazing, people are going to be like, wow, what a mistake. You understand what I'm saying? Versus if they created another game, let's say Final Fantasy 16, with the same engine and the same theories, right? It could be awesome, right? And there's no point of comparing it to, right? It's like, oh, you didn't ruin my childhood memories. You understand what I'm saying? You listen to the fans because the fans always want high risk and high reward. If it's awesome, everyone loves it. If it's shit, everyone hates you, right? And that's what happens in wrestling as well. Except for in wrestling, the fans pretend they like things that are unlikable. It's the weirdest fan base, wrestling fans. But anyways, I digress. And well, not really digress. That's exactly what we're talking about. But here's the video, motherfuckers. Wrestling is on life support. You might as well get George Clooney up in this bitch with those little paddles to shock the heart of WWE and even AEW to boost this bitch up. How can we fix it? That's another video for another time. Another video I'm going to do, Casual Q suggested that I do a video 25 reasons why Bray Wyatt sucks. So that's going to be in the queue of videos I'm going to do. So there's going to be one. It's going to be 50 reasons why Vince rules. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most probably. 25 why Bray Wyatt sucks. I'm looking forward to that. There was another one that I saw that I'm going to have to go back. There's another one that I saw that I thought was a great idea. Oh, it was how would I fix wrestling? Yeah, that's going to be another one. And then someone, she also wanted a shout out, but I forgot her name. Let's see, maybe I can find it here. Oh yeah, Lil Sean Christina Hubbard, I guess, Hbbard. Lil Sean Christina Hubbard, subscribe if you haven't. But she says, it's a girl's picture, so she says, can you do 25 reasons why Seth Rollins rules, and can you give me a shout out? Well, here's your shout out. Now, can I do 25 reasons why Seth Rollins rules? Maybe I can, but it would have to be a compound video of 25 reasons why he rules and 25 reasons why he sucks, because I don't really like the motherfucker too much. But anyways, motherfuckers, that's it for that. I had to get this off my chest before I forgot about it. So stay healthy and stay dirty, motherfuckers.